Trey, what are you excited about, man? I mean, I know you took all these life experiences, and now you got some new things popping in Brevard. Tell us about. I mean, we had some good cigars the other day too. Always about to pull it out of the blazer.
I'm so excited about the Fairway cigar. Where did it come from? The Fairway Cigar Company, a Baruti Collection Premium Cigar. I am so excited about this thing, man. This cigar, man, is literally, one of those things that I finally did something right. It only took me 40 years.
I mean, other than your girl here, Man, I'm just trying to help you out.
Hey, man, in business, I finally did something right. That's awesome. No, man, this cigar, it's the best cigar that I've ever smoked. And mind you, when I started this journey of, opening the cigar lounge, again, my biggest problem that I have is how I explain things to people. I explain things to people as if our brain is on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
So I will come to somebody and say, hey, I'm opening up a cigar lounge, man. You invest some money. And they're like,
you got to break it down.
You got a plan? I got a plan. I got a plan on opening a cigar lounge. What do you mean? That's awesome. That's the plan. You got the money. Let's partner up. Let's do it. Like, yeah, no, Trey, it doesn't work like that. You need to have numbers. You need to have, analysis. You need to have all of these things. You need to have, summaries. You need to have all of these things. It's just not, it's just not showing up saying, hey, I want to open up a cigar bar, give me some money.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, well, I guess this is one of those opportunities where I have to do it on my own. All right. So, I go out there, and again, in my mind, I'm saying, I would like to start a business that revolves around the tobacco industry.
Right.
Not just a lounge, not just a cigar, but I would like to be involved in the $1 trillion tobacco industry.
Right.
And I didn't know how to articulate that. I'm just saying, hey, I'm gonna start a cigar lounge.
Yep.
But in my mind, it's like, again, this is the kid, who is given a sandwich, man. Shoot, he's a 4-sport letterwear.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
What can you do with some tobacco, Trey? That's what we're about to find out.
So, there's so much. Well, with the A Baruti Collection Premium Cigar, it's going to put you at a place where it's a natural mood suppressant. So when you pairs well with a nice bourbon, nice scotch, it's one of those things you can definitely do. It's a great conversation piece. It's one of those things I tell people in the cigar world. If I shake your hand, I can always say that I've met you. If I smoke a cigar with you, I got a buddy for life.
Yep.
It's one of those type of things. So we're going to bring that to Fairway Cigar Lounge. And a lot of people ask me, how did you get into cigars? That is the question that a lot of people ask me. And my response is this. How much time we got?
Oh, you got all the time in the world.
Yeah, right, we need the answer to that question for sure.
I was at a prep school in Virginia, Minnesota, called Mesabi Range Technical Institute. And again, it was one of those schools that you try to get back, to a Division I level. So you just go around trying to play. And so my teammates then, we were from all over the United States of America. And I was, one of my teammates was a Cuban-American immigrant by the name of Ralph Pariente. Ralph was kind of give you an idea of Ralph, he was 310 pounds at 6'7" at 18 years old. Ralph was a big boy, mean too. And his father was a Cuban immigrant who used to hand roll him cigars and would send Ralph cigars so that he could have, some of his father's hand-rolled cigars.
That's cool,
it was kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Me being from where I'm from, back in those days, we were smoking we were using cigars for something different. So, if you know what I mean.
What do you mean?
I have no idea what you mean. Connor knows exactly what you mean.
So back in the day, we would smoke blunts.
Yep.
So we would take a cigar and we would cut it down, we would throw the inside out, then we would stuff it with weed, and then we roll it up and then we'd smoke it. That's what we did back in college. We were smoking blunts. So one day, Ralph was out on a date and the stores were closed. We didn't have any more blunts, but I knew my boy Ralph had cigars in his bedroom. And so, yeah, well, I go grab a couple cigars if he has a problem with it, if he trip. I mean, they're just cigars. We go get him some more. It's no big deal. As soon as the store open, right?
His dad's.
I'm thinking, he's mean, he's big, and you just took his dad's hand rolled cigars.
He can't just go pick up more of those from the super quick. You know what I'm saying?
Literally, blood, sweat, and tears goes into each cigar. And he's looking at his dad's freaking blood, sweat, and tears in the trash can. He's like, he said some words I ain't gonna say on camera, but he wasn't too happy. And I'm saying to myself, dude, it's just a cigar. Like, calm down. And so he didn't talk to us for like 6 months after that. He was a Cuban immigrant. He held a grudge for a long time. A long time. I'm like, dude, it's just a cigar. So I'm the type of person, going back, I don't want to lose anybody.
Right.
So now, all right, why is this person that I care so much about, why is he so in tune to these particular cigars? And I told him this. I say, listen, man, I know there's nothing that I can tell you to tell you how sorry I am, but you mark my word, I'm going to educate myself and something's great is going to come out of this. 20 years later, you have the Fairway Cigar Company, A. Baruti Premium Cigar Collection. Started from a little kid stealing his friend's dad's Cuban cigars, smoking pot in it.
I love that story.
Me too.
I love that story.
I
Man.
can't wait to have him at the lounge to tell it.
I was a little worried for your life for a second. Like you're just like Anyway, that's that's crazy.
Great.
So where are yours made? Tell us a little bit about the ingredients and kind of what's going on there.
So the cigars are hand rolled in Esteli, Nicaragua. The wrapper is Ecuadorian wrapper. The filler is a Nicaraguan filler, as well as the binder is a Nicaraguan filler. What you're going to get, it's a extra Robusto Habano cigar, so it's more on the milder side, but it still packs a light punch, smooth, creamy. The more you smoke into the cigar, the more different notes you're going to taste. So the draw on this cigar is going to be one thing about my styles. I want everything to be smooth. I like things to be ran smoothly. Nice. So my cigar will be no differently. You smoke a cigar, there's 3 things that you need to have a great cigar. Number 1 is the taste. Again, I don't care how good the cigar looks. If you put it in your mouth and you don't like the taste, you're not going to smoke it. Right? Number 2 is the draw. Are you sucking for your life? Nope, they don't take that the wrong.
Talking about cigars.
We're talking about cigars. Is the pull on that cigar so tight that it's...
No, edit that out, right?
Okay, is the thing that you don't know.
No, you're doing great, Trey.
It is what it is now. It is what it is.
It is very smooth, by the way.
That's number 2.
Yep.
Is the draw.
Yeah.
Number 3 is the bead. Is the bead evenly distributed all the way through the entirety of the cigar? If the answer to those questions are yes, it has an amazing taste. Yes, it has an amazing draw. Yes, it has an amazing bead. You have an amazing cigar. If you have 2 of those 3, you have a good cigar. If you have one of those 3, do not hang out with the person that recommended that cigar.
Yeah.
He's taking you for a long ride.
See, I'm a cigar guy. I don't smoke them as often as I used to, but I got like 60 in here, like just
nice.
just behind us. So I mean, I don't mess around with. Yeah. Anyway, so something when I was a kid, when I was younger, it was like, you're buying Swisher Sweets, Black and Milds,
wood tip.
and that's all you know until you have a proper cigar.
Yes.
I remember one of my brothers, he actually introduced me to a Cuban cigar, my brother Phil, and when I was 17, I'm like, oh, that's better than a Swisher Sweet.
Hey, where the wood chips?
That's right.
We don't sleep on
right.
the occasional backwoods Russian cream. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like
right.
when you're feeling real
Don't
frisky.
sleep.
Yeah,
Don't sleep.
But yeah, really good stuff, Trey. Like really enjoyed the smoke, man.
I think that you can be successful. Women-owned businesses are inherently, they're already 60% to that success line.
Yep.
Right? What is the challenge though? The challenge is you've got families. Like I have a child with disability with a pretty severe genetic disorder. He's doing amazing. He's an incredible kid. But
wow.
there's all that stuff. That's a whole nother story.
You can get into that as
I
much
could
as
get
you
it.
want.
Well, it's one of those. I could tell the story actually because
Please
when
do.
you kind of asked earlier about paraphrase sort of your life experiences and all this stuff, how it moves you into, how does that impact how you are as an entrepreneur or a business
Absolutely.
owner? Well, there's no question that the situation with my son Danny really changed me and shaped me. I mean, so I'll try to do this quickly and try to do it with a nice storytelling flow. But so Danny, my first child was. So it was 2000, and I had already kind of started going off working for myself. My husband was still in the military, and first kid, pregnant, didn't feel right. Something wasn't right. It's like, I don't know, he's not moving, whatever. And they're like, oh, no, first pregnancy, you're a warrior. What's your problem, whatever. So gave birth to him, and right away, military hospital, because John was still in the military. I'm in the Navy Portsmouth Hospital in Virginia Beach, or Portsmouth, Virginia, and something wasn't right. So right away comes out and it's like he's making noise, and it's like a little, they said it was a pneumothorax, a little punctured lung, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and is he premature? I don't think so. I kind of take him away, and I go off to my room there, and they took me to the NICU, and while he was there, he started to lose all of his reflexes. So he started off as like they do the APGARs 9.6. He's going to be fine, whatever. He was a decent sized kid. It wasn't. That's why they said, is he premature? And it was kind of like, I don't think so. So they take him off, and he starts to lose his reflexes. So pretty soon he's not sucking, he's not moving. They've got him on all kinds of whatever, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So they do a first level genetics panel, and they're like, we can't tell what's going on. He's got a little heart murmur. He's got all this other stuff. We don't know. So they said, we're going to do a CAT scan. And we lived about an hour away. So we were in Virginia Beach, and this was Portsmouth. This was about an hour away from the hospital. And I'd finally gone home after like 4 days, and they did this CAT scan. And so I called back to the hospital, and I said, hey, do you have the results of the CAT scan? And the doctor said, yeah. And I said, okay, can you tell me what they are? And he said, we need you to come in now, and we'll tell you. And I'm like, no, you need to tell me now over the phone. He's like, no, you need to come in now. And I'm like, no. Because I'm like, I'm not going to drive an hour going, oh my gosh, what's wrong? He said, okay, fine. He said, well, the results of the CAT scan show that a third of his brain is missing, and where he should have ridges, it's smooth. So he's severely brain damaged. So we're like, okay. So we go in. John and I sit down, they show us the picture of the brain damage, and here's the situation. So now we got to figure out, what are we going to do? We put a do not resuscitate him on him because we have friends who had a child severely disabled, and we saw kind of what it did to them. And we are a family of faith, and so said a lot of prayers and kind of like what do we what's the path forward? So put the do not resuscitate on him, and during all of this, I kept saying like, I can see him looking at me. I can see it in his eyes, and they're like, "No, poor Carol." You're like, no, you're just thinking that, and I'm like, "No, I can see him. He's looking at me. He's following me." Like, no. So we end up. It's 2 weeks later. He's got the do not resuscitate. He was still in the NICU, and we actually found out about a home for disabled infants that was in the area in Norfolk, Virginia, and they had one bed available. So we're like, okay, that's great, and they could oversee him, take care of him. All of that. And so we were preparing to check him into that home for disabled infants. And it's a big deal. When you have a kid with a disability that severe, you've got to go through Social Security and everything. And so we did all of that. And right before we left the hospital, I said, can I get an MRI for Danny? And the doctors are like, why? It's going to show the same thing. Why do you want an MRI? And I said, well, in my mind, I was like, well, number one, I want to know what I did wrong, because as a mom, I felt responsible. Number two, I want to know how I can fix this. And they said, well, fine, we'll do an MRI. So we take him home. They do the MRI. We take him home. It's a holiday weekend at that point when we had taken him home. We had done the MRI just a few days earlier. Holiday weekend. I called back right before the holiday weekend, I guess it was, and I said, hey, do you have the results of the MRI? And the doctor said, yes, they show the same thing as the CAT scan, still brain damage. I'm like, okay. So we check him into this home for disabled infants, which was horrible, as you can imagine. You check him in, and I just was like, is someone going to hold him? Is someone going to, it was awful. And so anyway, we check him in there. We come back the next day. It's like a Tuesday morning. I remember Monday was when we checked him in. Tuesday morning, we're sitting there with the new doctors, because it's the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters out of Norfolk, Virginia. Sitting with that doctor, and as we're talking about his care and what's going to happen, a nurse walks in and she puts a piece of paper in front of the doctor. He looks at it. He looks up at us and he says, we need to take this do not resuscitate off this child right now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, there's nothing wrong with his brain. I said, what do you mean there's nothing wrong with his brain? He said, no, these are the results of his MRI. It says there's nothing wrong with his brain. And we kind of looked at each other and like, okay, we took the do not resuscitate off. And I remember walking out to the parking lot, and John and I are just like, what just happened? Like, what is going on? And so kind of fast forward, we end up, looking at, going back, we went back to Portsmouth Naval Hospital to try to figure out what was going on. And it turns out that, first of all, the way that they actually got that paperwork was that a nurse from Navy Portsmouth Hospital had anonymously faxed the results of the MRI. We went back to Portsmouth and said, hey, we got these results that say there's nothing wrong with his brain. What's going on? They kept trying to argue like, well, we saw this. We think there's this. Turns out that they had made a mistake with the CAT scan. They had caught shadowing, and there was really nothing wrong with his brain. And so again, I don't know if I'm telling the story, smoothly and the best way.
Great.
But the point was, so the nurse anonymously faxing that over, nothing wrong with his brain. He's now checked into this home for disabled infants, right? And we're like, okay, what do we do now? Because there's something wrong, right? We knew there was something wrong, but they're saying, it's not brain damage. And oh, by the way, I remember telling somebody, I'm like, I was praying so hard, like, God, can you fix it? I couldn't figure out how God could fix brain damage without everyone knowing there was a real miracle. Like, well, maybe figure out a way. I don't know, whatever it was. But I also went, okay, let's figure out now. It's not brain damage. What's wrong now? So we kept him in the home for disabled infants, and I swear every day I would show up at the door when it opened at 8 a.m. and I would come in and I would sit there until the door closed at 5 o'clock, and asking about questions, seeing what was going on. And then when I'd come home, I would get on the internet, because there was internet back then, and I would Google anything I could to figure out what was really wrong, what type of disorder, disability. And then I would bring it in and I'd have a list. I said, can you check for DeGeorge's syndrome? Can you check for, I knew, the bad part was I knew of all the genetic syndromes, and it's a miracle that I had my daughter, get back on the horse kind of a thing, because I realized how many there were out there. And then finally, after 6 weeks, he came home, and then a doctor called us and he said, Danny has Prader-Willi syndrome. And one of the doctors had actually told us we should do a different type of genetic test, because there was a newer one to determine a different type of this syndrome. And that's what we did. And at that point, I kind of went, brain damage, Prader-Willi syndrome. You know what? I can fix Prader-Willi syndrome. And that was, all of that was the, fool me once kind of a thing. I'll never take no for an answer, but I'll never take just one opinion again. I will do my own research. I will fight for whatever. And that was, all of that kind of, moved me to change my mindset. And the same thing. And it also was what drove the fight for benefits, because we were very blessed. The military, believe it or not, had great benefits. Because now that I knew it was Prader-Willi syndrome, I was going to try anything. I was going to do everything I could. I did research on brain damage. I did research on Down syndrome, all these different disorders. And I kind of went, okay, what do I think can help? So his disability is Prader-Willi syndrome. And these kids are supposed to be short, small hands, small feet. It's a hypothalamus malfunctions. They never feel full. They can actually eat themselves to death. And they're supposed to be mild to severely mentally challenged. And Danny ended up 6'4". He's in college at University of North Florida. I mean, he has challenges. He'll say that himself. He'll admit it. He'll throw the disability card out every once in a while. I tell him to do that when it's appropriate. Okay, if you need a good parking spot, Danny, it's okay to say it.
That's right.
But he has just defied the odds.
Awesome.
And he continues
Amazing.
to defy the odds. And so, long story to talk about
love those freaking
my
miracles
son.
like
But
that.
it really is when you have something like that happen. It just changes your mindset on everything.
What's like your ideal industry when you're looking at something like this? I mean, what do you imagine getting into, founder, hunter?
If I had to run my dream position, so it's going to be two opposite worlds. It would either be something of like an Exxon, okay, or an LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy.
Cool.
Two totally different industries, obviously. One's oil and gas and global supply chain. The other one is global supply chain, but luxury consumer goods, which I actually very much like. I have a client right now, Adamas One. Their stock symbol is JEWL. Jay Gardina is the CEO of that company. Incredible guy. They do manufactured lab-grown diamonds. Incredible company, about $1 million a month, right? $12 million a year. And I think they're out of Savannah, Georgia, somewhere in Georgia. You can go listen to my interviews with the CEO. They are, according to GSA, right? They manufacture real diamonds, like not diamonds out of the ground, like African conflict diamonds or blood diamonds, or you've all seen the movie, right, with Leonardo DiCaprio. They actually have the chemical compounds with the machines that speed up the process of an actual real GSA certified diamond.
Interesting.
And that's incredible because, you don't have the child labor, you don't have all the, there's some really interesting sustainability. You're seeing a lot of that, come out. And we do know that, De Beers and certain other organizations have capitalized on a lot of this stuff through branding and marketing. But I'm very interested in the attainable, aspirational, luxury consumer space. It's very interesting because they're the number 1, number 2 company in the world. Bernard Arnault, I think is how you say his last name, I don't know, who's the CEO of LVMH. I mean, they're worth tens of billions of dollars. But they span across multiple industry sectors, handbags, clothing.
I think Pharrell Williams is like new creative director at LV or just got appointed, something like that, which is pretty cool. I mean,
and there's interesting stories. I was in Paris and, we went to Moynat. And Moynat is a luxury handbag company. And when you look at the story that they tell, I mean, they have a patented arch shape on the bottom of their purses, right, or handbags for women, and their luggage pieces. And it dates back to the first patent from this Moynat woman. She was actually a woman designer way back in the day, or early 1900s or early 1800s or something like that. And it was because when they would put the luggage on top of roofs of cars, it had to be arched so that it would sit flat. You wouldn't have a square luggage sitting on the top of a car where the car, the roof of the car is arched. So it actually was patented this, and they brought that style back, and it's all based on the history and the legacy. And I like that kind of history story that they're bringing into the modern era,
man.
that it gives it like some actually class and sophistication on, that's a Moynat, right? That's an original piece, right? And so I like that type of aspect of the business, when you can bring in the history. They're bringing history alive through, their designs and what brands they launch and all this other stuff. Very interesting.
I think that's the value of luxury goods, is that it does come with so much culture, history, storytelling,
Well, why do you think the terminology of it's a conversational piece?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what it's a conversational piece. And so, So it's just things like that. I mean, it's two totally opposite worlds, but I mean, it definitely collides because you're interacting and you're running a company or a brand that has direct influence into the everyday consumer, but also massive employment numbers, global footprint, very interesting,
Very cool.
Yeah.
And even like the trends that you see in high fashion or luxury goods, it seems to really trickle down and affect to just the culture as a whole. Like the way your
100%.
Nikes look, the way Cole Haans look. I mean, the same designer
100%.
that did the Versace chain for Reaction shoes is the same designer that designs everything for Cole Haan. You know what I mean? Celine Bedbury.
I don't know why I'm blown away that you know that.
I'm just into nerdy design shit.
I love it, man. That's
Well,
great.
I mean, look. I mean, when you look
I'm wearing New Balance today, by the way,
right.
just so everyone knows.
These are.
when you look
Me
at
too. I got the Nikes on.
Levi's.
Maybe just a classic,
Yeah, when you look at the when you look at the overall influence that fashion has had over the course of time, and you've seen it change over and over and over, I think that's a testament to there's always new designers, there's always new influence. What's moving markets. I mean, I look at what Supreme did, right? I mean, that's my point, right?
Reference, dude. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, you look at that, and then people are like, "Oh, I got the Ann ones, and I got this." In fact, that new movie that's out with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck is about the story of Nike.
Oh, Air, right?
Air.
Yeah, with Jordan.
I heard that is phenomenal. I'm like dying to watch it. Have you
Yeah,
seen
I mean,
it yet,
point being is that's like a testament to, I mean, so you look at Ford versus Ferrari, same thing. These iconic classic stories are very inspirational, but they're also, granted there's the Hollywood aspect where they dramatize things, which is fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I think, those would be my two avenues.
What does Hunter do for fun? I mean, other than like a mass knowledge, like about Louis Vuitton, for instance. What is, I am intrigued.
I haven't even got. Don't get me started on Tom Ford. Right? We're going to really go down the path. He's actually one guy I've always wanted to meet, and I've never had the opportunity to meet with him. I had one chance, but then I wasn't in the. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, Tom Ford, I am a big fan of Tom Ford.
Yeah.
In what he did for Yves Saint Laurent and Gucci, and then coming over and doing Tom Ford.
I mean, his name holds a lot of weight. That like black and white coffee table book with the big Tom Ford font on it. I mean, it's like
but he was
classic
iconic.
piece.
He was a provocateur, right? I mean, he did some very, explicit advertisements that were very avant-garde. He took risks, and he was successful with it. And he created a, attainable, aspirational, world-traveling brand that is synonymous with luxury and success.
Yeah, man. Even I found this, or I heard this the other day, just back on the Louis Vuitton subject, but something about how like the original, like red bottom was a statement for women to be like louder and to step out and not be in the background.
So-
Do you know what I mean? It was a
So Christian Louboutin worked for Charles Jourdan. So Charles Jourdan, which is a female, shoe brand, I think, and they got into some licensing deals. That deal's actually out right now. I mean, they've got a store in Paris. I've been to it. Charles Jourdan is an incredible company. They're the ones that originally patented certain design elements in the woman's heel, right? And this is a big thing for any of the women watching. You guys know this, right? They're walking in heels all day long, right? So it's kind of like uncomfortable and stuff, but they patented an arch, right? The guy that designed the red bottom shoe, Christian Louboutin, worked for Charles Jourdan. And then he left and started Christian Louboutin and patented the red bottoms.
well.
So yeah, it's a very interesting story. But I mean, all these guys, I mean, this is the history of business that I really like. I mean, in fact, there's a movie on, it's another fascinating story. It's on Apple Plus. If you watch Apple TV, it's Tetris. Movie Tetris. Okay, it's with the guy that was in, he played in The Kingsman. I forget what his name is or whatever.
Colin.
Ed, whatever his name is.
Yep.
Anyway, it's on how they got the rights out of Russia for the Tetris game that went on Game Boy with Nintendo. And it's based on a true story. And, it's out on Apple. I encourage everyone to go watch it. But that right there is a great look at how the modern day entrepreneur, back then, this was during the Soviet Union where you couldn't, go do business over there, and he did, and it's based on a true story, and so I like that. I like the history of business and seeing where companies came from and what inspired them and all of that.
So how's the family?
Family's good. Kids are good. Kids
Yeah.
are happy.
Nice.
That's tough.
We're all here for spring break.
Very nice.
Brooke's working.
Who?
Brooke.
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 Okay.
She's
Yes.
15. She works at the market in Melbourne Beach.
That's nice.
And she picked up 37 hours this week.
How's that possible? Is it
Probably
under the table?
not legal, but
Okay.
I mean, she wanted to. She wanted to work.
Nice. When I lived in Melbourne Beach, I went and I frequented some of the local restaurants there to try and get a busing job when I was not yet of age.
Yeah.
And I tried twice, and twice I got a job, and twice it did not last that long.
Was bussing hard.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
The scenes in the kitchen were shocking for this young lad.
Sure.
Yes.
Tell me
I
why.
Well, I mean, you walk in and, hi, my name's Matt. Get out of that! And they just started screaming at you. Like, sure,
I love it.
I'm just gonna wash some dishes here, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know they hired me as a dishwasher, so I didn't know they also wanted me to bus tables.
Sure.
It's not made clear.
Go get the dishes and clean the dishes.
That was not made clear. I was just someone's gonna bring them. I'm gonna wash them. That's the deal.
Sure.
That's not what happened.
No.
And so, yeah, Nick's Steakhouse, that did not work out too well. But they went out of business anyway, so whatever.
That's what they get for not treating their dishwashers well.
Exactly. And then Sands on the Beach used to be called something else. I went there, and that was a 24-hour deal. It did not last long. Did not get paid either. But, it's my limited experience in the restaurant business.
So that's all you worked in restaurant?
That's it.
Okay.
Do you have
Well-
restaurant experience, Cassandra?
No, I've never worked in the restaurant or hospitality. But I've worked in real estate since 18.
Since you were 18.
Since I was 18. I always make a joke that I have like no actual skills and I don't have any like true value. Like I'm not an electrician or a plumber or a doctor
Wait, hold
or a
on.
nurse.
You're not a plumber?
I'm not like I don't have like those. If the apocalypse happens,
Like the hard skill stuff? Or what?
I can't help. If the zombies come, I have no what am I gonna do? No, they're just gonna eat me.
Find
I'll
the
die.
zombies, great real estate.
all the banks are collapsing right now, so
I know.
your runway's kind
Getting
of short.
so
You know what I'm saying?
apocalyptic, right?
Yeah.
I'll be dead soon. But no, you keep the doctors and the nurses and the I don't know what are the other skills like you. What
I don't-
carpentry?
I don't know. There's no carpentry. Don't let the beard fool you.
It's the lumberjack thing.
Scott is not going to call me one day and say, "Hey, Matt, I was trying to figure out what angle I should cut this board." No, no, no. He's going to say, "Matt, hold the damn board." That's what I'm good at.
Okay.
I can hold things. I
Okay.
can pick things up. I can put them down.
Yes.
I'm actually pretty good at landscaping. That I'm good at.
You are a large man, so you can fight the zombies.
I can fight some zombies.
Okay.
Yep. Sure.
No, on the note of Scott, our exact plan when shit does hit the fan is to call Scott. because
Scott have the
we're
gun?
All going to his house or something,
Yeah.
He just had.
He's got the plan?
No,
He
he
has
has
the
a
go
plan.
bag.
Okay.
and-
He's got
yeah.
a plan for everything.
It does. The market does feel very I Am Legend-ish right now. It's getting a little
Are
spooky.
we allowed to talk about movies with Will Smith right now? Is
Well,
it
of course.
too early?
Matt opens every episode almost with a movie reference, so you just got to let him do his
It's
thing.
true.
you know?
Okay.
That's true.
I think Chris Rock would support that.
Yes, I think Chris Rock would too. I think Chris Rock would support Will Smith openly getting slapped at his next public event. I think by someone much bigger than him,
Oh, my
like The
goodness.
Rock,
Yes.
right? Coming up, that was the equivalent of what that was, right?
Yes.
That would be like The Rock
Sure.
coming up to you and slapping you on stage.
Guess we've got to nominate The Rock.
I think that was terrible. I agree with this. I saw some guy say this the other day. I think it was like Chris Rock's brother or something. He said he thinks Will like counted the cost. He's like, yeah, that guy, I could get away with it. And I think he knew he could slap Chris Rock, and nothing would happen.
He did. He got a standing ovation after he won an award
Yes.
15 minutes later.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Right. Right. Now, if it was The Rock presenting, or whatever, he was the host, you think The Rock would have gotten slapped? Absolutely not. Come on, Will.
Have you seen Chris Rock's new hour?
I saw a clip.
Okay.
It was pretty funny.
I have a question about that. I read in some article that like it was either the live taping or is it in the special where he messes up his punchline about Will Smith?
Yes, and then he re-records it. Yeah, and they're going to cut it out. I mean, all of the joke writers do this. I'm like fascinated with comedy, and I'm a little obsessed with it. Like if I'm on the spectrum, it's really like I hone in on comedy, and it's like my thing that I'm like
Okay.
a little
Any favorites?
favorite comics.
Yeah.
I love Louis C.K.,
Okay.
Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yes.
Bill
Do you,
Burr.
do you watch Kill Tony?
I went to Kill Tony 2 weeks ago.
What?
It's a
Cassandra,
dream of
please.
mine to be on Kill Tony. I'm
So
gonna
did you
be
put
on
your
Kill
name in the
Tony.
bucket or
I
what?
didn't that week. I was going for some market research. You know, I wanted to feel it out. It was
Right.
my first time in the comedy scene in Austin, and I was really just like, all right, so how good are these kids? Right? There's 150 of them outside waiting in the line.
Yeah.
They put their name in a bucket. Roseanne Barr was there, and they pulled up 4 or 5. They sucked. It's like they hadn't prepared. They didn't have any jokes.
Right.
It was insane.
Yeah, the entire concept of Kill Tony for people who haven't seen it is like anyone that night can put their name in the bucket. There's like a panel of comedians, and if they pull your name, you come up for 1 minute of stand-up. It doesn't matter who you are. It could be the homeless guy, or it could be like a professional comic,
Yeah.
And it's extremely entertaining, even when they suck, because Tony Hinchcliffe just goes in, like he just
Murders
rips them
them.
apart on stage. It's amazing. Amazing show.
Murders.
So I'm really looking forward to Cassandra's Kill Tony debut. I mean, that's like
Very excited.
I want to take my wife to this because
Yes.
She's in the background right now, as you guys know, but no one over here knows. But we were talking about this the other day. Kelly's like, I want to go to some comedy shows. We got to make that happen. So
Oh, you can go on a
Austin
comedy
it is.
tour.
Honey, we got to go to Austin.
Joe Rogan's comedy club is now open, the Mothership.
Yes,
So he's
very
bringing on
cool.
the elite. He's bringing on Dave Chappelle, Theon. I mean, Joe, Ron White, like the heaviest hitters in the country are coming to visit his new club. So
That's cool.
hop on a flight and go.
Hop on a flight and go.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well, how did you find out about Crush initially? I mean, where'd that start?
I did. So I have super secret methods. I used Google and I typed in businesses for sale in Florida.
That's
No
amazing.
joke.
That
I'm
never
literally
heard
not
this
kidding.
story.
I'm not kidding.
Because I didn't know Crush was for sale, and
Well, you have to-
I'm pretty like dialed in.
It doesn't come up and say, "Hey, Crush 11's for sale." It says there's a restaurant in Brevard County that's for sale, and here are the numbers on it. And if you want to learn more about it, you have to fill out all this disclosure information, and then they check you out. And so I had been over to Tampa to look. I knew it. I figured Florida because I'm not a big fan of state income tax. You don't have any here. I like that.
Right.
That's good.
I thought that was just a coincidence. Steve,
No,
to be
yeah,
honest.
no, that was not a coincidence. And I always said I wanted to live near the beach. So just a little backstory. What kicked this whole thing off is my best friend from 8th grade till a couple years ago was in Las Vegas for the first weekend of the NCAA basketball tournament. Just dropped dead in his hotel room.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and my father-in-law died at 53. So he was 51. My father-in-law died at 53. My brother died at 43. And I'd come home every day from my med device job and just be miserable. And my wife finally just said, you get one ride around the roller coaster and you don't seem to be enjoying yours. She said, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to live near the beach and I want to just do something different. I want to be my own boss. And she's like, then go make that happen. And so I started looking. I looked at some places in Tampa. I came down and looked at a couple of them. There's something wrong. It just restaurant. I sort of funneled into restaurant because it looked like you didn't have to have a degree to do it very well, and I didn't have to. Landscaping wasn't really my thing. So I kind of looked a lot at restaurants. And I looked at one over there. Or looked at several over there, but there was always a little bit of something that was wrong. Like I knew I didn't know what I was doing. So I needed to find a place where the owner was leaving who really wasn't doing a whole lot of day-to-day stuff.
Right.
And had a good staff and good setup and it was all running well and was making money. I didn't want to come in and
Have to-
turn
have
around
to
a
turn
loser
something
because I don't know how
around.
to turn around a loser, right? So there was always something a little bit wrong with each one. And when I came down here to go to Crush, I walked in, I'm like, this place looks amazing. I ate the food, I'm like, the food's amazing. I talked to the staff, I'm like, the staff's amazing. I looked at the numbers, I'm like, the numbers are good. Like, I don't see any problem with this. So I came back home and said to my wife, hey, found it. And she's like, wait, we're really, you're serious? I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And she's like, okay. So she came down and looked at it and she's like, okay, it's a nice place, So
That's
I have
cool.
the best wife in the world. Like,
That's awesome, man.
yeah. I mean, yours are probably okay too, but I mean, mine's the best. So, so she took a leap of faith with me, and we found a house down here and bought that and sold ours and moved through all our stuff in a 26-foot U-Haul and.
You really just manifested all that with a Google search, man. I like that.
Oh yeah.
Just-
It's like not even a specific one. It's like
No, it really is amazing that how many people I'm like, how do you learn how to do that? And they're like, well, I just Googled how to.
right.
Swap
That's the
out the
first step
engine.
in pretty much every process. Just look it up on the internet and see if you can figure it out.
Yeah, man.